Have you ever wondered if the person who calls you friend might secretly be the one who wishes you'd stay small? Or have you ever felt a chill run through your chest when someone close to you offers a compliment that feels like it's carrying a hidden blade? In a world obsessed with connections and highlight reels, the most dangerous betrayals rarely come from your enemies. They come from the people who smile beside you, clap for your victories, and then whisper doubts into your mind the moment your back is turned. Frenemies are not obvious villains wearing dark cloaks and scowls. They're often dressed in polite words, soft gestures, and carefully crafted concern. They linger in the hush of midnight, leaving you awake, replaying conversations in your mind, trying to decode whether that laugh was genuine or whether that silence after your good news was just quiet resentment. In this digital age, frenemies don't only exist in living rooms and offices. They hide in your notifications, lurking behind likes, breadcrumbing you with emojis, ghost-scrolling your stories, all the while collecting tiny fragments of your life to use as subtle ammunition. You share your joy online, and their reaction feels like a cold hush where a warm echo should have been. They're masters of narrative control, planting doubts about your worth not with outright insults, but with careful silence, measured pauses, and soft suggestions that you might not be as special as you thought. They feed on the quiet chaos between words, turning your confidence into fragile truths you keep questioning. And here's the hardest part to admit. Sometimes the frenemy is not them. It's the part of you so terrified of standing alone that you keep inviting poison into your fortress. That's the hidden fortress mindset no one talks about. Because when you allow frenemies to stay close, you pay for it in sleepless nights, restless thoughts, and an invisible tax on your energy economy. But silence doesn't have to be your prison. It can become your hidden blade. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And in that quiet realization is your first taste of freedom. So today we're going to rip away the velvet hush and look straight at 5 unmistakable signs you're dealing with a frenemy, and why cutting all ties might be the greatest act of self-respect you'll ever commit. Because your silence isn't rejection, it's self-respect. And sometimes letting go isn't cruelty, it's clarity. Let's step inside the silent fortress together and learn how to defend our peace from the ones who smile as they sabotage our shine. We live in a world where friendship has become both a sanctuary and a silent battlefield. These days, being surrounded by people doesn't guarantee you're truly seen or safe. A frenemy is the kind of person who hugs you while measuring how far the knife will go if they choose to strike. They're the invisible wound beneath the smiles, the hush behind applause, the gentle nod that hides a fortress of envy. And the terrifying truth is, frenemies aren't rare. They're woven into our highlight reels, hidden in the hush of our notifications, smiling at our stories, yet quietly praying our glow-up won't be brighter than theirs. They exist in offices, friend groups, family dinners, and even digital spaces where breadcrumbs of affection mask subtle sabotage. They're the ones who vanish quietly from your narrative the moment your shine threatens to cast a shadow over their comfort zone. You see, a frenemy doesn't always seek to destroy you. That would make them obvious and easy to eliminate. No, a frenemy is more insidious. They'd rather keep you close, subtly draining your energy economy, planting small doubts, and making you question whether your achievements are worth celebrating at all. It's a silent glow-up they fear, because it's the kind of transformation that doesn't announce itself, but changes everything. Sometimes you look into the eyes of someone you've trusted for years, and you realize there's a hush where there should be joy, a quiet emptiness where loyalty should stand guard. That's when it hits you. Not everyone deserves your story. This video isn't just about listing warning signs. It's about helping you protect your quiet power, rebuild the fortress walls around your peace, and cut ties without losing yourself in bitterness. Because if your story deserves anything, it deserves clarity and the courage to choose who belongs in the next chapter. Let's step deeper into the shadows together, because what comes next might just set you free. Hidden competition is the silent chessboard where frenemies thrive. It's the hush between two friends where one secretly keeps score, measuring not just who's winning, but who's daring to shine. Have you ever shared your good news only to watch someone's smile flicker like a faulty light bulb? The congratulations are there in words, but the eyes carry a distant storm, a flicker of shadows gathering. That's a frenemy in motion, someone quietly untouchable on the outside, but inside, calculating the invisible scoreboard. Because for them, every moment you rise is a moment they feel left behind. And here's where it gets twisted. It's not that they want you to fail. No, failure is too obvious, too messy, too hard to explain away. They'd rather you stay almost successful, glowing but not blinding. They'd rather your fortress glow softly instead of shining so bright that it highlights their own unfulfilled dreams. It's why you might share you're working on a new business, and they lean in with quiet power and say, "Are you sure that's a good idea right now? The market's saturated." Or you tell them you're in love, and they nod slowly, their voice coated in narrative control, whispering, "Just be careful. People change." It's the hush of midnight that follows these conversations that leaves you tossing in bed, wondering if your ambition is arrogance, if your hope is foolishness. And in that silence, they win, because they've shifted your fortress walls inward, making your dreams feel too big for the room. Digital frenemies have mastered this craft. You post about your promotion. They leave no comment, no emoji. Instead, they vanish quietly, ghost scrolling through your glow-up, absorbing your victory like it's an affront to their algorithm glow-up. Or worse, they drop subtle seeds in the comments like, "That's amazing. Hope it's not too stressful for you," slicing your joy with a gentle hush as a weapon. Because hidden competition isn't a war of words. It's a silent glow-up they want to contain. It's the way they linger near your successes only to puncture them softly, so you start questioning whether shining is worth the emotional vortex it creates. There was a man I knew named Thomas, who worked in finance in New York. He and his closest friend Ben were like fortress brothers, always together. Drinks after work, gym sessions, inside jokes. But the moment Thomas got offered a significant promotion, Ben's quiet metamorphosis began. Ben started calling Thomas boss man in front of colleagues, pretending it was a joke, while privately pulling away, withdrawing just enough to make Thomas feel the chill. When Thomas tried to share his excitement, Ben deflected, talking about how promotions only create stress and ruin friendships. The hush of inner storm that followed left Thomas questioning if he should even take the offer. That's how hidden competition poisons the soil of loyalty. It's the silent defender who turns traitor, planting seeds of doubt so subtle you almost miss the betrayal. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." And that's the hardest lesson of dealing with frenemies. They can't twist your mind unless you offer them the keys. The fortress gates are yours to guard. Your glow-up isn't arrogance. It's the compound effect of choices made in silence, of invisible progress no one sees until it bursts through the surface. And your success doesn't betray anyone. It simply reveals who was truly standing beside you and who was quietly measuring your steps. So how do you handle a frenemy caught in hidden competition? You observe in silence. You listen to the hush between their words. You stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You let your silence become the hidden blade, because sometimes the greatest revenge is curiosity. Let them wonder how your fortress keeps expanding, even when they try to build invisible walls around you. Let them regret losing the version of you they never met. And if your silence leaves an echo, let it be a reminder that peace is boring for some, but it's your quiet rebellion. Have you ever felt someone trying to shrink your victories to keep themselves comfortable? Because in the next sign, we'll dive into another layer of the frenemy mask. When loyalty comes with invisible invoices and support becomes a quiet form of emotional debt. Conditional support is the most deceptive gift a frenemy offers because it masquerades as loyalty while quietly keeping you bound to invisible contracts. At first glance, it feels genuine. They show up, they help, they cheer you on, but always with a subtle hush of expectation lingering in the shadows. A frenemy doesn't simply support you because they love you. They support you because they're writing a mental ledger, keeping track of favors, energy, and secrets, calculating how and when to cash in those silent debts. Have you ever noticed how certain people only become your biggest cheerleaders when your life is messy, when your fortress walls are crumbling, when you're vulnerable and in need of a silent defender? They swoop in with quiet gestures, warm words, and an embrace that feels like a safe fortress, only to withdraw it the moment you begin to glow again. Because your glow-up threatens the narrative where they're the hero who saved you. There's a woman named Emily I once knew, an artist living in Los Angeles, brilliant, creative, full of sacred longing for something meaningful. She went through a brutal breakup, and her friend Carla was there daily. Calls, texts, coffee runs, fortress coffee rituals that felt like salvation. But months later, when Emily finally began to heal, meeting new people, pouring herself back into her art, Carla grew distant. She started leaving sly comments like, "Must be nice to have all this time for painting again," or "Hope you're not forgetting the people who were there when you were shattered." It was as if Carla could only love the version of Emily who needed saving. Once Emily reclaimed her quiet power, Carla's support evaporated like hush before surrender. That's conditional support, a loyalty shield wielded only when it keeps them in the center of your narrative. Digital frenemies do this too. They shower you with likes, love bombs, and comments when you're venting online about heartbreak or career setbacks. But the second you post a photo smiling under dawn light, your new glow-up ignites their silence. They vanish, ghosts scrolling through your success while pretending they're just busy. Because their support was never unconditional. It was a transaction disguised as loyalty. Marcus Aurelius warned, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject." Your glow-up, your healing, your silent metamorphosis, they're not for public approval or quiet manipulation. You owe no one your vulnerability simply because they once helped you stand. The fortress you're building is yours alone to guard. Aha moments come crashing in when you realize that the same person who once wiped your tears might be the same person quietly hoping you'll cry again, because your wounds gave them purpose and power. True friends rejoice when you no longer need saving. A frenemy resents losing the role of your silent defender. Conditional support is the hush that demands you stay small enough to fit inside someone else's narrative. The real danger is not in losing their help. It's in believing you owe your loyalty to someone who sees your healing as a threat. Let your silence be your hidden blade. Walk away not in anger, but in clarity, because loyalty without freedom is just another cage masquerading as kindness. Have you ever felt the warmth of someone's support cool into quiet resentment the moment your fortress started glowing again? In the next sign, we'll peel back yet another layer of the frenemy mask, the subtle weapon of backhanded compliments in the art of gaslighting, where praise turns into poison before you even realize you've been cut. There's a special brand of poison only a frenemy knows how to brew. It's the backhanded compliment delivered with a soft smile and a gentle hush. It's praise dipped in quiet venom. Words that sound sweet but leave an echo chamber of doubts reverberating in your mind long after the conversation ends. Have you ever had someone say, "Wow, I could never pull that off, but good for you"? Or, "It's amazing how confident you are, even with everything going on in your life"? These aren't compliments. They're precision strikes designed to plant invisible wounds, to keep you questioning your worth in silence. That's how gaslighting slithers into friendships disguised as honesty. It's not outright cruelty, it's quiet metamorphosis, a shift in the emotional atmosphere so subtle that you start doubting the reality of your own glow-up. You tell them about a new job, and they nod with soft-spoken admiration before adding, "Just don't get too ahead of yourself. You know how these things go." Or you share your art, and they lean closer, whispering, "This is good, different from your usual style. Are you sure people will get it?" And suddenly you're standing in the hush of inner storm, clutching your dreams tighter because someone who claims to love you has gently implied you might be delusional. Digital frenemies are masters of this art. They'll leave comments under your posts like, "Stunning! I'd never be brave enough to wear that," or "Love this for you. Not sure it'd be my vibe though." Those words are wrapped in emojis and hearts, yet they sting like a silent blade. Because digital spaces are perfect playgrounds for backhanded compliments, offering a stage where the frenemy can appear supportive publicly while maintaining plausible deniability. If you confront them, they raise their hands, palms open, and say, "I was just joking. You're so sensitive." Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Reject your sense of injury and the injury itself disappears." But that's the trap, isn't it? A frenemy thrives on your confusion, on keeping you spinning in a trauma loop where you question whether your hurt is real or imagined. They sharpen their smiles into knives and cut just deep enough to keep you bleeding quietly, never enough to leave scars obvious to others. I once knew a guy named Aaron who worked in tech marketing in San Francisco. He was vibrant, creative, the kind of guy who walked into a room and changed the hush of city chaos into laughter. He had a friend named Kyle who was always by his side, praising him in public, tagging him in memes, seemingly Aaron's biggest supporter. But whenever Aaron spoke about wanting to pitch bold new marketing ideas, Kyle would lower his voice and say things like, "Bro, don't get too crazy. You know you tend to go overboard and people might not take you seriously." Aaron started pulling back. His confidence leaked like silent chaos, leaving him stuck in a cognitive budget drained by constant self-questioning. Kyle's backhanded compliments were quiet flames that burned the edges of Aaron's ambition until he barely recognized himself. That's how a frenemy becomes your silent saboteur. Not through open hostility, but through hush of folded doubts, planted carefully between moments of affection. Aha moments often arrive in the quietest ways. One day, Aaron heard Kyle praising another colleague's boldness, the very kind of boldness Kyle always told Aaron to hide. And in that instant, the fortress gates flew open. Aaron realized, some smiles sharpened like knives. Your success, your creativity, your quiet rebellion, it's not arrogance. It's the fortress you're building, brick by brick, in silence. And no one who loves you should ever make you feel guilty for daring to shine. Let your narrative be yours alone. You don't owe explanations to those committed to misunderstanding you. If someone repeatedly makes you doubt your worth, if their praise always carries invisible barbs, that's not friendship. That's silent sabotage. Let your silence become the hidden blade. Walk away not in anger, but in clarity. Because your fortress needs no announcement, and peace doesn't apologize for its own glow. Has anyone ever praised you in a way that left you feeling smaller instead of seen? In the next sign, we'll step deeper into the shadows, where frenemies don't just dampen your light, they sabotage your moments of celebration so the spotlight never fully reaches you. Celebration sabotage is perhaps the cruelest game a frenemy plays because it strikes right at the moment your fortress should shine brightest. It's the hush that follows your triumph, the invisible chill that settles over the room just when you're ready to let your soul glow. Have you ever shared a victory only to feel the energy drain from the conversation, like quiet wind slipping through fortress gates? A frenemy's weapon in these moments isn't overt hostility, it's silence, downplaying, or subtle redirection that makes your joy feel fragile instead of formidable. You announce your promotion, and they nod slowly, their eyes gliding away saying, "Wow, that's great." Though honestly, that company is known for burning people out. Or you celebrate buying your first home, and they lean in with quiet power and whisper, "I mean, housing market's a mess, but if it makes you happy." In those moments, your glow-up dims, not because your victory is any less real, but because the person who should be clapping the loudest has chosen to stand in hush of midnight instead. Digital frenemies are masters at this art, You share your highlight reel online, your new business launch, your art exhibition, your engagement, and they watch from the shadows, ghosts scrolling your stories without leaving a single emoji. Or worse, they drop a comment like, "Congrats! Hope it's not too stressful for you," planting seeds of doubt as quiet as ashes rebirth. Because a frenemy can't bear the thought of you basking in undiluted light. Your celebration reminds them of the fortress they have yet to build, of silent glow-ups they postponed out of fear. So they twist your joy into something burdensome, transforming your victory into an emotional vortex you're suddenly forced to defend. There's a woman named Sasha I met during a speaking engagement in Chicago. She worked tirelessly on launching her own fashion brand, pouring every dawn into design sketches and fortress coffee rituals that fueled her vision. When she finally hosted her first runway show, her longtime friend Maya attended, smiling politely. But when people congratulated Sasha, Maya leaned toward a group and murmured, "It's great. I just hope she's ready for how cutthroat this industry is." The words were delivered in a hush, quiet enough not to confront directly but loud enough to cast a shadow over Sasha's moment. That celebration's sabotage, a frenemy slipping a quiet dagger into your brightest day. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." A frenemy's goal is to hijack your thoughts during your own victories, making you second-guess whether you deserve to shine. Their presence turns your highlight reel into a narrative trap, where your wins come wrapped in caution, anxiety, or the hush of unseen disapproval. The truth is, your victories don't need disclaimers. Your glow-up doesn't owe anyone an apology. Let your fortress stand tall, and let your silence become the hidden blade against anyone who tries to dull your light. The real measure of friendship is who can clap for you the loudest when there's nothing in it for them. And if someone shrinks away from your success, that's not humility. It's resentment in disguise. Aha moments often arrive when you realize you've been dimming your own celebration to keep someone else comfortable. You start to understand that shrinking your glow doesn't save friendships. It only burns you out in hush of inner storm. Walk away not in anger, but in clarity, because peace doesn't apologize for shining. Has anyone ever tried to twist your celebration into something you felt guilty for enjoying? In the next sign, we'll peel back the final layer of the frenemy mask, the quiet game of narrative hijacking, where your story becomes ammunition in someone else's quest for control. Narrative hijacking is the most cunning trick in the frenemy's silent arsenal because it doesn't just attack your confidence, it seizes your entire story and rewrites it from the inside out. A frenemy thrives on stealing your narrative, twisting it quietly until your victories, your secrets, and even your vulnerabilities become the threads in the cloak they wear to elevate themselves. Have you ever confided in someone, sharing your deepest fears in the hush of midnight, only to discover those very words echoing back to you in a room full of strangers, rebranded and retold with subtle edits to cast you as either the fool or the villain? That's narrative hijacking. It's not just gossip. It's strategic storytelling used as quiet power. Digital frenemies perfect this art in a world obsessed with highlight reels. You open your feed to find a cryptic post that's clearly about you, dripping in vague sadness or quiet condescension. Funny how some people act like they've changed, but deep down they're still the same. They write, harvesting likes and sympathy while you sit in the fortress of your own silence, unsure whether to confront them or stay invisible. It's emotional warfare disguised as harmless venting, because if you challenge them, they'll smile with innocent eyes and say, "Wow, you think everything's about you, don't you?" It's narrative control, and they wield it like a hidden blade, leaving you questioning your reality, your memories, and even your own instincts. I knew a man named Victor who worked as a chef in a bustling restaurant in Boston. Victor trusted his colleague, Sam, confiding his plans to open his own bistro, sharing recipes, ideas, and even hush-of-taste secrets meant for future menus. Weeks later, Victor overheard Sam casually telling other staff that Victor was unstable, prone to wild dreams, probably never going to follow through. Sam painted Victor's ambition as naive, quietly shifting the fortress Victor was building into a fragile illusion. The worst part? Sam repeated Victor's private recipes as if they were his own insights. Victor stood there in the hush of inner storm, realizing that a piece of his soul had been stolen and recast in someone else's story. That's the cruelty of narrative hijacking. The frenemy doesn't merely want your failure. They want ownership of your story so they can become the hero in the tale you thought belonged to you. Marcus Aurelius said, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." The danger is that frenemies blur those lines so skillfully that your fortress begins to crumble from within. The aha moment arrives when you recognize that no one deserves unrestricted access to your narrative. Your story is sacred, a fortress built from dawn sacrifices, invisible wounds, and quiet metamorphoses. Not everyone should be allowed to step into those fortress walls. If someone constantly hijacks your story, spins your words, and uses your vulnerability as social currency, let your silence become your hidden blade. Walk away not in anger, but in clarity, because clarity is the fortress where narrative control can no longer reach you. Have you ever felt someone rewriting your story while you stood silently watching your own reputation shift shape? In the conclusion, we'll talk about why cutting ties might be the most loving act you ever commit, for yourself and for the fortress you're still building. In the quiet aftermath of every betrayal, there comes a hush where your mind replays every conversation, every laugh, every fleeting look that now seems laced with secrets. And that's the invisible cost of dealing with a frenemy. It's not only the sting of their words, but the hours stolen from your fortress of peace as you sift through memories searching for where the loyalty ended and the quiet sabotage began. Frenemies thrive because they wrap poison in silk. They make you question whether your victories are worth sharing, whether your glow-up is arrogance, whether silence is wisdom or a sign you've become invisible. But here's the truth wrapped in the hush of dawn. Your glow-up isn't arrogance. It's the compound effect of unseen battles, quiet discipline, and all the fortress gates you've held firm against chaos. You owe no apology for shining, and the presence of a frenemy doesn't mean you're naive or weak. It means you dared to trust, dared to love, dared to hope that loyalty was mutual. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Frenemies try to erode that quality brick by brick, whispering fragile truths into the spaces where confidence once lived. The moral lesson is stark yet simple. Not everyone deserves your story. Your narrative is a fortress built in silence, guarded by the echoes of your own resilience. Those who chip away at your confidence under the guise of love are not protecting you. They're feeding on the quiet power you're still learning to wield. Let your silence become the hidden blade that severs ties, not out of anger, but out of clarity. Because cutting ties isn't cruelty, it's self-respect. It's choosing to preserve the fortress of your mind for those worthy enough to enter. Your glow-up deserves to stand unashamed, brilliant under the hush of city chaos, untouched by those who would dim it to soothe their own insecurities. Some people can only love you when you're small. Others will cheer the loudest when you become the echo they never dare to be. Choose your company wisely. Let your glow illuminate those who walk beside you, not those who hide knives behind smiles. And remember, your peace, your silence, your fortress. They're not emptiness. They're your quiet rebellion. The light returns the moment they walk out. If there's one question I want you to sit with after this video, it's this. Who in your life leaves you feeling smaller instead of seen? Who claps for your victories with words but not with their spirit? It's time to look closely at the hush between conversations, at the fortress gates you keep open out of habit, and ask yourself if some guests have long overstayed their welcome. Reflection is the hidden blade that slices through illusions, and your story deserves to be told without quiet sabotage humming in the background. So tonight, I invite you to write down the names of those whose loyalty feels conditional, those whose support arrives only when you're in ashes, but disappears when you begin your silent glow-up. Ask yourself, do they belong in your fortress? Or have they been ghost-scrolling through your life, gathering pieces of your narrative to weave into stories of their own? Take action. Close the door softly but firmly where trust has been betrayed. Let your absence echo, and remember, cutting ties isn't cruel, it's clarity. Peace is boring for some, but for you, it's the dawn vantage point where quiet rebels gather to build lives untouched by quiet sabotage. And if you've ever felt someone shrinking your victories, I want you to know, your glow-up doesn't owe anyone an apology. You are the fortress. You are the echo they'll never escape. If this video resonated with the quiet part of you that's been craving clarity, leave me a comment with the word freedom. Tell me your story, or simply share the echo your heart still hears. And if you're ready to keep building your fortress, subscribe, because the journey to quiet power is only just beginning.